So good evening, everyone. Welcome back on my channel. Today we're here with a very special guest, and it's my first time interviewing someone. Today I'm interviewing a candidate for Governor of the state of Vermont. He's the youngest person ever to run, so it's a pleasure to have you on your show, on my show. It's gonna become your show today because you're gonna be the main character. So it's a pleasure for me to have you. And how are you doing?
Great. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. So I want to start with a very important question because I don't think many people know, neither do I, neither did I at least before. What is a lieutenant governor? Is it a separate? Do you run in a separate? Is it like a whole ticket like the president and vice president, or is it a separate thing?
So it's sort of like the right hand man to the governor. So basically, they provide or preside over the Senate. They basically like can be like the deciding vote in those decisions. It's sort of a figurehead role, but also has a lot of power. Um, yeah, sort of just like PR, a lot of that stuff.
So that's interesting. So you run separately. You don't run in the same ticket officially like president and vice president, or I think.
So yeah, it's actually it's two different things. So yeah, we have to get also both 500 signatures before we're even allowed to be on the ballot.
That's interesting. So it differentiates from the presidential ticket, which is one single ticket. The first thing I'm gonna ask you is, why are you guys doing this? Because I think it's important to ask this.
Yeah, so one day Dean texted me and he recently found out that there was no age limit to run for governor or lieutenant governor in Vermont. So he basically reached out to me with this idea saying, I'm gonna run for lieutenant or I'm gonna run for governor. And if you want to help, I can, go around town, get signatures, make videos. And one day in town, I mean, I at that point had already been doing a lot of work. I was recording most of Dean's videos. He asked me if I wanted to maybe get more involved in this, and lieutenant governor seemed like a great opportunity for that.
That's interesting. You went from cameraman to right hand man. That's
Yeah,
that's very that's a very good thing actually. Very happy that the youth is getting into politics. In Europe, it's not harder. It's just less fun,
yeah,
regardless of the blonde man who has dominated the scene. We're gonna talk about him a little bit. So you've made two videos so far. In the day I'm recording, so I'm gonna talk about the policies you proposed there. So lay out your plan pertaining to school administrative funding.
yeah.
So
So in Vermont, we have a lot of school districts and not so many schools. I think right now we have about 300-ish schools and about 130 school districts, which is not a great ratio. This is basically clogging up like funding. It has to go to a lot of administrative salaries, meaning that basically these schools who are being funded from up top sort of have to trickle down and get what's left of the funding. So what I've been proposing is, so Governor Scott already has a bill in action, or it's sort of in development right now, but it's to cut down to only 5 school districts. And in the video, I believe I said that it was around 62 schools per district, which that's a lot of schools. So the problem I have with this is that, well, sure, that may give us a lot of funding, but it also reduces local level decision making, basically making it so that in order to really get a decision, you have to have it done from up top, which is also still managing 62 schools, which makes it hard for that.
it's a very ambitious plan, and I hope it's gonna be fine when eventually you guys get in charge. We'll see when it's gonna be.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
other,
oh, sorry.
don't worry, no problem. The other thing you talked about is green energy. So
Yeah.
lay out again your policy pertaining to green energy, how you want to implement it, if you want to do drill, baby drill, or something in the middle, or full grain. Right?
So yeah, I mean, in my video, I talked a lot about how Vermont, it seems like a really green state. Nearly 100% of our in-state energy is created green, which sounds really good, but we only create around 20% of our own energy. So a lot of the other energy is coming from places like Canada, New York, and a lot of that energy is using like fossil fuels or other unrenewable sources.
Great. So thank you very much for your answers. Now we'll switch to something else. What is your relationship, you as Lieutenant Governor and Dean as Governor? What is your relationship, diplomatic relationship? What is it going to be with mayors of the cities? And in particular, I'm interested with the federal government, so the president, not maybe the president himself, but the federal government and all the other chambers.
Yeah. So in terms of national like relations, Canada, we have pretty strained relation with them. Vermont is a really good state because we're directly pushed up on that border. So being governor and lieutenant governor, that could really help to sort of strengthen relations with them. I know that was one of Dean's major points for that.
Thank you very much once again. And I hope you can. I hope you manage to make relationship between. I hope you encourage the president maybe to get along better with Canada because it's been a little bit rough. And since I mentioned President Donald Trump indirectly, but what do you think of the work he's been doing in general? What do you think about his policies? What he's trying to do? What he's done so far? Just a general. You can be as detailed as you want. Choose how you're going to answer the question, how you're going to convey the message. But what do you think of his work so far?
So I think that at the beginning of his presidency, he gave a lot of sort of unfulfilled promises. He had his 100-day agenda, and I think he said that he would end the war in Ukraine in, I forget, it was like
24
2 days,
hours.
24 hours, right? And I mean, as you can still see, that's going pretty strong right now. Um, so I think that he really has to get his act together. I know he recently met with Putin for the first time in a few years to resolve this, but I don't know exactly how that went, but I don't think he's doing as much as he could be doing right now to really end a lot of these wars or do what he's promised.
I agree with you. I'm not going to comment that much because I'm the guy who's interviewing, and therefore I'm going to leave it to you. But I agree. I agree. The meeting, in my opinion, didn't go that well. I made a video about it. So, what do you think is America's, or let's start with Vermont because it's more important. What do you think is Vermont's biggest issue, the most important issue, which should be addressed first?
So I think that we have a big problem. I mean, I know it sort of all boils down to this, but government funding and taxes. A major point that we've been exploring is short-term rentals. Um, the fact that they get taxed the same amount as residents, meaning that you could be paying the same amount as a person who's only here for like 2 weeks, which one that makes it so that they don't have to they're not like funding or not providing funding to as much of the state as long-term residents. So now a big solution to that would be to implement taxes to basically make sure these short-term rentals either transfer into homes or into long-term rentals, which would make it so that those people have to start paying taxes on their property, which can really help fund our state.
Okay, it's a very good explanation. Thank you very much for giving it. So, tell me about your party now, because how did this party come alive? Sorry, bad mistake there. How did this party? What's your goal with it, and what's your goal with this election? Is it just to be on the ballot to win the whole thing? Like, talk about the party now, because I'm
Yeah.
interested.
So like starting out with that last question there, I think that you know, especially how close these elections are, I think that it would probably be a long shot to win. We're running to get experience in the field, so one day we can maybe make a larger difference. So that would be, getting on the ballot and really just getting our names out there. As for your first question, the Freedom and Unity Party, it's Vermont state motto. The reason we created our own party is because when you run, um, you first have to go through, I believe, the primary. And what happens is that a lot of people, if you don't, get elected there, you can't actually get onto the general election ballot. So with our own party, we automatically get to the general election.
That's very smart, and I don't know how much. I'm not gonna say corruption because it's legal. I don't know how much lobbying there is at that level, but probably, if you run in a primary, I don't know, for the Democrat or Republican Party, I suspect that rich guys there are gonna push other guys, give them money to campaign. I suspect, and I think you're probably right. Seeing what happens in the bigger elections at higher levels, it's always like that. So I remember that you said it's, or at least hinted at the fact it's a long shot, and it is effectively. But I think if you guys go popular and you are going popular, at least more than people thought, you can really make an impact because I believe young people should get into politics. And I also want to create my own party in a in another country which is not the United States. I've never said which one it is. When I eventually become the leader, you're gonna find out which country it is. But I hope I will become the leader, or I hope that someone else will get in and do the right job. Otherwise, I'll do it myself. I don't want to make it about me. So, do you guys ever wanna run for president? I know this is a big long shot. It's very hard, especially because not the uni party, the two party system is quite hard to get through.
Yeah, I think one of the largest restrictions that you have to be 35 in order to run for president. But if that ever changes, maybe in Trump's presidency, that would definitely be a next logical step in terms of this.
It's interesting. Are you gonna do it with one of the mainstream parties? Are you gonna maybe do it with your party or Elon's? I don't know.
I mean, I think it would be pretty nice to do it with our own party still. I don't know exactly how that works with the presidential election, but if we can still you know use that to get on the general election ballot, that would be a huge feat.
Probably that would be very, very great. But many people have gotten here with very mediocre results. Even Kanye West himself got a few votes in 2020, I think, like 67,000. So I think you guys can do better than him politically.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
actually, that was one of our things. Our goal is to get more votes in Vermont than Kanye West did when he ran.
That's interesting. It's interesting. Kanye didn't try to even run. He asked Trump to be the vice president. That was hilarious. I'm not gonna get into that. I don't know if you knew it, but anyway. So before running for office now, were you guys already into politics, or did you just see this and said, okay, let's do it? Or were you already fans of
Um,
politics?
yeah, I mean, I personally, I have a lot of experience with politics. I know I've sort of gained a lot of knowledge every morning before school. I would watch the news, and that really gave me a good insight. I know Dean, he did I believe he did an internship at the Vermont government. I think it was a PAGE program, and that gave him a lot of experience. He got to meet a lot of cool people in the government, which that really gave us like a leg up in terms of actually knowing what we're doing.
Networking is possibly the most important thing in politics. I'd argue this is my opinion. And I wanna turn to one thing which you already sort of mentioned. So when it comes to the youth in politics, here in Europe, no one is active because there is a lot of bureaucracy, it's more complex. Nobody knows how the European Union works. Neither do I, and I'm a geek. Like it's just not a geek, but I'm really way above the average in terms of knowledge, and I don't know it works very well. So that's telling. What do you think the youth should do? What's your message to the youth? In America, there are more opportunities, way more. Obviously,
Mhm.
here is very bad in that regard. So, what's your message to the youth? What should the youth do, and all that stuff
I
in
think that
politics?
I mean, yeah, it's a really good question. I think that the youth should definitely sort of know what's going on in their government. If they don't think something's right, they should maybe not do what we're doing, but they should really try to take action. Maybe do research and see what they actually believe in and not just sort of believe what politicians are telling them. I think that knowledge is really power when it comes to this. And maybe who knows in the future? I mean, as you said, children are the future of America. So the more knowledgeable people we have at this age, the better leaders we have in the future.
I agree with that. It's true. People need to be informed. It's very true, and the youth needs to get its act together. Because I say something, and I think you agree with this. If you don't act, you don't get to complain. It's not just voting; it's getting into the mess and and try to fix the broken system. Like Trump said, it's a great quote. I'll steal it. So I want to ask you about. I forgot the question, so I'm gonna ask another one. But what's your advice in general for people? Let's just make it simpler.
I mean, I don't know. I guess that's a big question. Like, what do you mean? Like, what kind of advice?
Life advice, maybe in general, or advice to get better. Let's just leave it to that. No.
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, I think knowledge, know what you're gonna do, and like stand up for yourself. If you think something's wrong, really just try to make change. And people can do so much more than they think they can. So I think that it's really good if there are people standing up for what you believe.
It's a very good piece of advice. Now I want to ask you one thing, because I was talking with a friend of mine about Vermont in general, and this very political person, more knowledgeable than me, and that's very good given he's very young. He's around your age, I think. So it's very interesting because Vermont is a blue state. At least in the last seven U.S. elections, Kamala Harris won like by 32 points, something like that, which is a ridiculous margin, one of the biggest margins. But it is actually one of the whitest states, which is quite interesting. And Trump won easily with white men, like plus 15. He also won with white women. Vermont is like 95, 93, something around that percent white. So why, I can imagine why, but let's see if I'm right, but why is Vermont such a blue state in spite of the demographic suggesting otherwise?
I mean, that's a very good question. And um, I think that really boils down to Vermont's way of life. We don't have that many big cities. We don't have that many really wealthy people here. I mean, we do, but like the majority of Vermont is middle class. And I think that really Trump, his whole ideals is making the rich richer. I mean, paraphrase, of course, but I think that even though Vermont is not a very diverse state, I've seen it firsthand. I think that uh, it just boils down to Vermont being its own really independent place, and that even though we are mainly white, we just don't support Trump's vision.
I think, and I'm just assuming, I think it also has to do, and tell me if you agree with me, I suspect that not Democrats, that the average of people that have a college degree in Vermont is quite high, and Republicans do better with uneducated voters. So I think there is a connection there. Don't you think so? I'm just asking. That's my. I don't have data, but I think it's the case.
I do agree with that. I mean, Vermont is a very educated state. You can see it like a lot of places you go. So I think not to really, you know, get too offensive to Trump's supporting, but they generally tend to have lower levels of education. I mean, that's just, purely statistically.
That's statistics. I mean, it's just statistics. It doesn't mean if you don't have a college degree, you can't be successful, obviously, but it's just a statistic which is real. I don't have it up, but it's Republicans win with people who don't have college degrees, Democrats the opposite. We can analyze the reasons why we will not, or at least not now. I want to ask you about, in my opinion, or at least it's the only guy I know from this country, from excuse me, from this state other than you. I want to ask you about Bernie Sanders or Crazy Bernie, how Trump calls him, which is hilarious. But what do you think about him more or less? He should have become the nominee in 2016, but everybody went with Clinton. Also in 20, everybody went with Biden. So, what do you think of Crazy Bernie more or less?
I mean, I like him. I've been to one of his rallies before.
Listen,
Um, I think that he would have been a very good candidate in 2016, definitely better than what we had then. He's, despite his age, he's very well spoken. So I think that having him as a president wouldn't have been the worst option for that year.
I think it would have won. I'm gonna be honest, and I think it would have beaten Trump. Won because he was underestimated. Clinton campaigned very badly, focusing on Trump being fascist instead of on the issues. Same mistake Democrats have been doing since the orange man got into politics. But actually, even I mean, there is a particular policy of Bernie Sanders which I think would be destructive. We can get into it. And I agree with taxing the rich in the way that they should pay as much as the average person. But he proposed, I think, 100% income tax on any person earning more than $1 billion. I think that would be great for companies which make trillions and everybody would escape. That wouldn't be good for the economy, I think. But what I like about Bernie is that he's authentic. I I,
Mm.
I like that, frankly. And he's well spoken, that's true. But that policy with it's fine taxing the billionaires as much as the other guys. I agree with it, no problem. Actually, it's the correct policy instead of giving tax breaks and cutting Medicaid. But that policy, in my opinion, is destructive. I don't know if you agree with it, but I think it's excessive and
I
destructive.
mean, yeah, I think that that policy, um, I think that it is great to tax the rich. It really helps, build up our funding, our government. But I mean, it's great to an extent. I think that, big companies, they also need their funding, but definitely not to the extent that Trump wants it to be lower. I mean, we've seen in America's history that big corporations have not been paying as much taxes as they should. So we should create a good middle ground and really make it so that they're contributing as much as they're taking.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we should find some common ground somewhere in the middle because Bernie maybe is a little bit too much, and I think it is. It's a very bad. That would be very bad in my opinion. But so you talked about obviously what the youth should do and get involved in everything. And I'm gonna ask you: do you think the two-party system will be broken, and if so, how?
Like, do I think it will be broken in the future? Or
Yeah, in the future, not in the near, not in the next election. I mean, that's not gonna happen unless something crazy happens. But do you think in the near, not in the near future, in the future, there's gonna be a moment where we have more parties? I mean, in the 92, a guy ran as an independent, got 20%. Don't remember his name. So do you think there's ever gonna be somebody, maybe not winning, but really making big gains
I
in
mean,
the general election as a third party guy?
I think it's really hard at this point. I mean, the parties are extremely polarized. It's not, it used to be the case where you could be, Democrat or Republican based on your beliefs, but now it's sort of either Democrat or Republican based on what you always were. And I think that we haven't had a third party winning since I believe the Democrat and Republican parties were created. Um, so I think right now it would be really hard to change people's mindsets and even think about changing parties. But maybe in the future, I think if more people know about the subject, it would really help that cause. So in the future, I think it could be possible, but right now it's pretty unlikely.
I agree with you, especially because both there is such a strong, in my opinion, and you live this you are in the United States, so you know more than I do. This is just what I see from the outside. There is such a not concentrated, but there are these very rich people that buy off all politicians. There are very few that are not bought. I talked about APAC. I'm not going to get into that now because it's not the topic. But there are many lobbies, I guess big pharma and oil lobbies and I don't know, loads of lobbies. And basically every politician is bought off, whether it's by APAC or some other guy. Either needs to be someone extremely rich to come along and invest billions in an election. Like Trump didn't do that, but he tried to make it seem as it was self-funded, funded rounds that were public. But I think someone super rich needs to come, some oligarch, but who's actually let's just say a good guy for the sake of the argument and try to make gains. I think that's the best way to go, because otherwise it's very hard. Then the problem, in my opinion, I'm gonna let you speak. because I've been talking for too long, is that then you get into the White House, and Trump talked about this, and you have to choose thousands of people, and knowing thousands of people in DC it's quite hard. So you're gonna choose people from the deep state, how it's called, or the swamp, and then you can never drain it. That's my
Right.
biggest issue with Trump, whose initial idea I supported of breaking the system. Problem being is the system. But what do you think about the, the other things I said against him?
Yeah. So actually we're against corporate PACs because I believe that's another pathway to breaking this two-party system. So right now we're in the position where in order to be successful in your campaign journey, you either have to have a lot of money or have really good connections up there. So I think that basically trying to cut down on corporate PACs would make it so that money isn't the only factor and it sort of levels the playing ground, making it so that even if you don't have as much money, you can still, get your name out there and be mostly self-funded.
I actually agree with that. Yeah, but super PACs are very too much influential without a doubt. There are countries which have limits, like I don't know, maybe Australia or one of these countries at the $20,000 limit or something like that, which I don't know if I'm in favor of, but I think there needs to be a comprehensive reform of that whole system and thing. So last question, and then we're gonna wrap it up, I think, because I've asked you a lot of things, and I've also realized one thing, but I'm gonna tell it after. So what is gonna be your policy on immigration, not national immigration necessarily, because you're not some state in the southern border like California or those states, which are obviously a very big and important. It's a very important hotspot for immigration in the United States. But what is going to be your policy regarding immigration with neighboring states and Canada? Because it's obviously up there. What do you intend on doing there?
Yeah. So immigration, I think it's great. We have a very low population, but I mean, we do have a problem with illegal immigration, especially in the southern states. In Vermont, it's not so much. So I think that's pretty good. Another big issue with that we have about a 30,000, or it was, I think, 8,000 home deficit in Vermont, which is basically making it so that even if people wanted to immigrate into Vermont, which we have a low population, 600,000, it would be very difficult for them because they either have to find very overpriced homes, or what I guess we're trying to find is to make those short-term rentals into long-term rentals, or build houses in order to get more people into our state, which could boost our GDP and make our state a better living environment.
Okay, so very extensive answer. Thank you very much. Do you have anything else to say, or you think what we said is fine?
I think what we've been saying is really great. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much, guys, for listening, for tuning in. Subscribe and support Char because you're doing a great thing. I endorse you, support this initiative. I think it is good. Thank you very much, guys. Subscribe to the channels. It's been a pleasure for me to be talking to you and wish you and your friends, particularly your friend, the best. And I think not maybe not this election, but the next one you can win, and you will win because even myself, I'll get involved a bit more. I'll get on the ground because I'll go to the United States probably next year, not in Vermont, I think, but I'll go one time. I'll go surely to visit.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks so much. It's been great being here.